Hi, it's Therese. Today we're speaking about punctuation for the Ielts exam. And if you look at the band descriptors for Ielts writing tasks 1 and 2, you'll see that punctuation is a very important criteria for improving your score. So let's look at the main points of punctuation. This is a full stop or a period in American English, and it's used to end a sentence. We follow a full stop with a capital letter. It's also used for acronyms like, for example, the term BBC. Now, a comma is used to separate two phrases that are connected, whereas a semicolon is used to separate two independent clauses. So each clause has its own meaning. And then a colon is used when you want to make a list. Question mark is used at the end of a question. So in this video, I'll go through how we can use punctuation correctly in writing. Let's get started. If we look at the band descriptors for Ielts writing task 2, we can see that punctuation is mentioned in band scores level 3 up to level 7. So punctuation is important. Also in the band descriptors for writing task 1, we see that it's mentioned. Starting with commas, we use commas after introductory phrases or phrases that come before the main clause, and to separate independent clauses separated by relative pronouns and conjunctions like and, for, so, etc. So for example, in Ielts writing, we always use a comma after most linkers or cohesive devices, such as overall, however, for example. So in this graph of chocolate sales, we make a statement in the overview. Overall, comma, the sales of dark and white chocolate increased over the period. So that comma after overall is absolutely essential. And if you leave out your punctuation mark, then you'll lose marks. So in Ielts writing, we also use comma after adjective clauses and prepositional phrases. So for example, regarding milk chocolate, comma, sales increased between 2009 and 2012. So this is describing a graph from Ielts writing task 1, academic. So we have the adjective or prepositional phrase with regarding, followed by the comma, followed by the independent clause. Make sure that you leave that space between the comma and the next word. Commas in complex sentences, adverbial clauses, very common in writing task 1 academic. While there was a decrease in science students, comma, there was an increase in the percentage of education students. So you put the comma after the dependent clause with the adverb. Now, if you change that around, as is often the case, you could say there was an increase in the percentage of education students while there was a decrease in science students. So when we switch the position of the dependent clause around, you don't need the comma. In a relative clause, we use commas in non-defining relative clauses to separate the dependent clause from the main clause. So for example, ebooks, comma, which can be easily purchased online, comma, are becoming more popular these days. We do not use commas in a defining relative clause. There are many websites which people use to find ebooks. Semicolons are different. We use semicolons to separate two independent connected clauses. We don't use a full stop after the first independent clause because the sentences are connected. We do not use a comma because the clauses are independent. So for example, running is a good sport to build stamina, semicolon. Swimming is also good for stamina. So each clause can make sense by itself. So that's why we use the semicolon. Make sure to use an undercase letter after using a semicolon in the second clause. We don't use a capital as after a period or full stop. We use a small letter after semicolon. Full stops, we use a full stop or period when the sentence is fully finished. So for example, although traditional books are still useful, comma, ebooks are more convenient, period. Therefore, more people now read ebooks. So the full stop finishes the sentence, followed by a space. Don't forget to use a capital when you start the new sentence and your space, okay? We also use full stops or periods after abbreviations like OCT for October or Mr. for Mr. Capital letters we use for the following types of words: the first word of a sentence, a proper noun, and acronyms like BBC. In the reading part of IELTS, make sure that you use capitals in the answers in the same way they're used in the reading passage. So if there's a word with a capital in the reading passage and it's part of the answer, then also use a capital. Thanks for watching, everyone. Good luck with your use of punctuation. See you in our next video. Bye.